everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Addie. It is getting to be that time of year where you almost don't even want to go outside because it is so cold. And it is just a little bit more hassle to get outside because you have to bundle up before going out. And if you happen to be a mom like I am, I have 2 little girls and 1 on the way, then you know that the winter time can be even more of a struggle because not only do you have to get dressed, but you have to bundle those sweet little bundles of joy up as well. And if yours are anything like mine, who takes off their shoes just as you get their shoes on, it can be a really long process. But if you're a mom, you know that sometimes just getting outside is the key to sanity. So I thought today I would share some of my tips that I use to make my winters go a little bit smoother with my kids. So my first tip would be to have a little list of activities that you can do with your kids when things get really rough. You're gonna be inside a lot more in the winter time than when you are in the summer, obviously. So having just that little list of, I'm going insane, what can we do that's out of like the norm, like not their normal toys, can be so helpful. Some of the things we like to do are, a long thing of butcher's paper, so it's like a whole floor of coloring space. We like to do forts. We'll do a Play-Doh set that we don't normally pull out. I have one that my kids really love. It's linked in the description. That one keeps them entertained for hours. I would highly recommend it. You can bake, you can get a squeegee and wash windows, or you can place, small items in a bucket of rice and let them dig out the items. Just having those few things on hand to do when things get rough is so helpful. And if you need help coming up with new activities, I have so many videos on kids' activities that are there to help you with that. I will link them all in the description below. They are videos from, babies and all the way up through preschool, different kinds of activities, learning activities, fun activities, just random activities, all that kind of thing. I have so many. It's there to help you. Please, if you need some ideas to stay sane, I totally get it. I totally understand. I have so many ideas. I'll link them all in the description below. My next tip would be to fill up your gas. Seems simple, right? You always have to do that. But in the winter, it's just a little bit more important because somehow it's always the most cold day. It's severely snowing. Both kids are in the car screaming. It's the most inconvenient time to have your gas be at 0. So I would just highly recommend, if it is a sunny day but cold, if it is a time where you are alone in the car, if it is just anything that is convenient, if both kids are happy, whatever, if you have gas that is lower than half a tank, just fill it up. It seems stupid and it seems like you could skip that tip, but I will tell you, it has changed my life. The next tip is to warm up your car in advance if you're going out somewhere with the kids. And again, that seems like a no-brainer, but I can't tell you how many times I have not done it, especially because of things with the car seats and, they're not supposed to wear coats underneath the seatbelt. So just having to take those off and put them on, having a warm car is just so helpful, and it just eases some of that burden. And to that car seat point, they're not supposed to wear coats when buckled in the car seat. So one thing we'll do is I'll bring a blanket out with them so that when we get to the car, I can just take their coat off real quick, buckle them up, and then give them the blanket to cuddle with, and that has worked pretty well for us. I wouldn't recommend leaving a blanket in the car necessarily, because if you leave the blanket in the cold car, the blanket's gonna be cold, so it's not really gonna help them like warm up. But if you bring a blanket out with you and then take it in with you, that can be really helpful. And if you don't wanna do that, if you don't wanna have one more thing to carry, I totally understand, but taking their coat off, putting them in the car seat, buckling them up, and then putting their coat on backwards, like a Snuggie style, also is another tip. Depending on where you live, if it's really cold, or here it doesn't get this cold to warn it so often, but if it's really cold where you are, before you get out of the car, you can climb to the back seat and unbuckle them and put their coats back on before you even get out, just to like keep the warmth in. Again, it doesn't really get that cold here often that it warrants that, but I have done it a couple times because sometimes it just gets cold. The last car tip that I have for you is to prepare your car. And by that, I just mean making sure that you don't have to go outside and scrape your car for 15 minutes, because one, that's just annoying as it is, but if you're a mom with kids, that could mean leaving your kids alone inside for 15 minutes which can be so anxiety ridden. Like if you don't have someone else at home with you and you have to leave them just so you can go scrape the car, like it's annoying, and you got kids alone. So I would just recommend, if you do a solution of 3 parts vinegar to 1 part water and spray it over your windows, that will help the ice from forming, so it will at least like make the scraping easier. And then if you don't really want to scrape much at all, you could also put Ziploc bags over the side mirrors just so that you can pull them off and they're ready to go. Use gallon size. You will likely need gallon size for that, and you can put a rubber band over it to make sure it sticks. And for your front window, if I know that we have a snow coming, sometimes I'll take my kitchen mat and put it over the windshield so that I can literally just pull the mat off with the snow and not have to worry about it rather than having to scrape. So those are just some like little tips for your car to make that aspect of life a little bit easier in the winter. My next tip would be to make sure that you have proper fitting clothes in the winter. It is not a time to push, the between sizes. If you have kids, you know that a lot of times kids can be between sizes. So for the winter, you don't have to replace their whole wardrobe if the season's about to end and they're getting out of their size. Just do 2 or 3 of each item so that if you're gonna have a longer time outside, you can keep them warm, because the legs specifically and feet, those are one of the biggest culprits of heat loss, especially for kids. So making sure you have pants that are long enough and sleeves that are long enough and shoes that fit and will be better insulators for their feet is just really, really important. My next suggestion would be to make sure that you have 2 pairs of gloves and 2 hats for every kid, because somehow when you need a pair, they magically grow feet and just start walking off and they're nowhere to be found. So having an extra pair just makes sure that you know you are set and prepared. And if you have waterproof gloves, then I would highly suggest that you get the ones that have clips on them so that you can attach them so that one doesn't, go missing from the other. My next tip is that if you are going to play in the snow or going sledding or whatever it is, something that requires suiting the kids up and putting them in their snow pants and full gear with the boots and the hats and the gloves and everything, make sure that you take a bathroom break or change a diaper before you suit them all up, because there is nothing worse than going through the entire battle of getting them dressed and prepared just for them to say they have to go to the bathroom, or for you to realize you forgot to change their diaper and have to take everything off, let them go or change the diaper and put everything back on. It is so defeating. So just really remember to take those bathroom breaks and change those diapers before suiting up for snow play. My next tip is to buy some bins, one for everyone in the family. And you can put all of their winter stuff in those bins. You could keep them in a closet. You could keep them, on the floor by the door, wherever you want. But it will just make sure that everyone knows where their winter stuff is. And if you have a bin dedicated for those things and one for each kid and they know where it's supposed to go, they are way more likely to actually put their stuff away so that you don't have to do it, or you don't find it somewhere else and have to do it. They are more likely to put it away themselves and go and get it so that you don't have to go get it. They're more likely to dress themselves as well. Next up is to make sure you are moisturizing your kids before bed. Seems silly, you do it a lot when they're babies, but as they get older, you kind of don't lotion up as much, I'll say. But in the winter, it is really important because their skin is so sensitive and it can dry out so much. It might not get to the point where it's cracking or anything like that, but it is a little itchy and uncomfortable. So just being preemptive and lotioning them up before bed can be really, really helpful. I once had a doctor tell me that if you lotion them up when they're a little damp, moisture and the lotion works better, it locks in. I have no clue if that's true. I've never looked it up. I've never asked someone else, but someone once told me, and I'm just sharing that information with you. If your kid is particularly prone to dry skin, maybe you could try that, after bath time rather than waiting for them to be totally dry. Just leave them a little damp and put some lotion on and see if that works for you. Again, no clue if that's actually true. We've done it and it works fine, but I have no idea if it works better than when they're dry. So I don't know, just another tip or just a little information I'll pass on to you, and you can choose to try it if you wish. If you do have a child that is particularly prone to dry, specifically in their extremities, like their hands and feet, you could also, put a little extra on their hands or feet, whichever one, and put socks on over that or gloves on over that to lock in the moisture. That tends to help too. You don't have to use any fancy lotions. You could use Vaseline, you can use coconut oil, you can use shea butter, whatever it is, whatever you have, whatever you want to use is totally fine. My next tip would be to get a tray for those wet boots, muddy boots. Kids can really track that through the house and it leads to a lot of cleaning if you don't have a place to put those. So just a tray to keep the wetness contained is really helpful. You could use a cookie sheet if you don't want to like go and actually buy anything, but you can get them on Amazon, you can get them at Lowe's. They're pretty easy to find. If you do have shoes that get wet or non-waterproof shoes that get wet, one tip is to put newspaper in them so that they dry out faster. It'll just help absorb that moisture. Next up is to stock up on basics. Again, having to go out in the winter time is just more of a hassle. You have to bundle up, and sometimes if you're out of something, that means bundling the kids up too to go out and get it. There are a couple items that you could wait on. If you're cooking dinner and you don't have an onion, whatever, you just don't use the onion that night. But if you're in the middle of a diaper change and you realize you're out of wipes or out of diapers, you have to go get those. So in the winter especially, make sure that you're stocked up on those essentials: diapers, wipes, milk, formula if you are using that, just those things that literally if you don't have it, you have to go get it. Just stock up on those. You will thank me later. And the last thing I will share with you today is another no-brainer, something you probably already do, but just consume warmth. If your kids are outside playing and they're coming in and they are cold, or if it's just one of those days where it's a little colder, consume warmth. Those soups, the hot beverages, our favorites are hot cocoa and warm apple cider. They also really like grilled cheese and tomato soup, chicken noodle soup. Another one that my kids really like, which is like a healthier one, is butternut squash soup. So if you haven't tried that, I would recommend looking up a recipe and doing a butternut squash soup too. All right, that is all the tips I have for you today. I hope that some of these are new to you and some of these can help you and your winter run a little bit more smoothly, because believe me, I know winter with kids can be a struggle. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other tips I did not mention. I would love to hear them. I'm a struggling mom too. I definitely want to know things if there's a tip that can help me this winter. So please leave those in the comments below for me and for all the other mamas checking this video out. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.